All right.
Afraid, can you see
All
me? Test
right.
test.
It looks like we are live. Hungan. All right. Nenga zabit sekesti. Kola live todo. Hungan. Hungan. All right. Hungan, the live stream is up. Biba, biba, biba. All right. Now, Izo and Ratu, give me 1 second and then we will get started. Hungan. Inigi. All right. Hafade, we are live. We are live on YouTube, Facebook.
Afraid.
Okay. All right. Buenas todos hamzu buena hudzo ngafa day. Stigio an episode of Fanatsu. Guawi host Mizu Tatlo, si Michael Luhan Bavakwa. And we it is 2025. We are 3 episodes in to this year for Fanatsu. And it is the start of the Chamorro New Year. And one of the things it is Tumaiguini. This is the first month of the Chamorro New Year. And one of the things that I think is important that we do at the beginning of Tumaiguini is, of course, we honor our ancestors. We go back and we talk, we don't know much about uh, our ancestors and Tumaiguini and their practices. We do know that there was an annual gathering, most likely at Fua Rock down south, and that is why there is the Lukau Fua every year for the past 10 years in Guam, where people gather to pay respects, to tell the creation story of the Chamorro people. But one thing we know is that they would gather, they would tell stories from their past, they would ask for the blessings of their ancestors, they would talk about their genealogies, pay respects, and so on. And so I feel then that as a Tumaiguini episode, as we remember our ancestors, as we honor them, I'm I'm honored to invite to this episode Aaron Quitugua, who wants to share with us the story of his great grandfather, Francisco Jesus Cruz, who was a young man during World War II in Guam, who suffered under the Japanese occupation, who then participated and fought against the Japanese in Guam's liberation, which is a story which is uncommon for the Chamorro people. There's a lot of stories of suffering, of people enduring, but persevering. But then there are also those stories of Chamorros fighting back, of doing their part to assist the United States in defeating the Japanese, taking matters into their own hands, doing what they can. And so his Francisco Cruz is one of those, he has one of those stories of, and so beyond that, he then joins the Guam Scouts, the Guam Combat Patrol, which is another one of those stories of young Chamorro men who do their part to keep their island safe. When thousands of Japanese go into hiding around the island, not wanting to surrender, he and dozens of others root them out, working for 4 years, risking their own lives, with several of the members of the Guam Combat Patrol being killed, several others wounded, doing their part to capture and then kill uh, hundreds of Japanese stragglers to make the island safe for their people. And so it is an honor then to welcome Aaron Quitugua to the Fanatsu podcast for this Tumaguini episode of Fanatsu, who will be sharing with us the story of his great grandfather, excuse me, his heroism, but then also sort of the broken promise that he and many other Chamorros have experienced, who have sacrificed for the United States, who were meant to receive recognition in certain forms for what they sacrificed, and and waited a long time and sometimes never received what was promised to them in terms of awards and recognition. And so, Aaron, Sidzus Masi, Parifinatotmu, thank you for joining on the
Si
Fanatsu
just must
podcast.
say, senor. Si just must say. Um, it's an honor. Thank you for being and inviting me here and share my family's history. And it's just an honor to be here and share it with everybody here today. So Thanks to Mase, for sure, for sure.
Hungen, and so Aaron, put forward before we get to your great grandfather's story and your family story, just can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, your familia mo na and anything else?
Yeah. I'm Aaron Andrew Cruz Quitugua. Felisa Cruz, Quitugua Quitugua,
Oh,
Felisa Cruz from
Aaron,
Madison.
kogagyo bueno?
I'm here. Can you hear me? I can hear you. I can see it's better now. Okay. So I'm Aaron Andrew Cruz Quitugua, Felisa Cruz from Madison, and Quitugua Quitugua from PD. Grandson of Ruth Ann Cruz and Anthony Quitugua. And I'm a prior Air Force veteran, prior Marine Corps veteran. Been in emergency preparedness for a while, and yeah, just finished my undergrad, a few years ago, and a father. Yes, it's it's very, I'm very honored. Like I said, I know I'm a little lost for words, but still, just being able to be here and tell the story, it's an honor to be here.
No, Jesus Masi, I have to apologize. I think my internet is rough. And so dispensadzo, if I keep cutting in, I can't tisinyo hungo kao dispensadzo. And so
It's
Aaron, why
cool.
don't
It's
you
cool.
go ahead and get started because my internet is bad. Get started in telling us
Okay.
about your great grandfather's story.
Okay. So my great grandfather, um, the reason why I want to tell this story is because as I, served in the military and talked to so many people throughout the country, from different countries or different states, different states, not a lot of people really know about, us Chamorros being in Quitugua. That's something that I have to explain every time I meet somebody new. So, not a lot of people knew about, the issues and the history that we went through, during World War II, and let alone, the heroics that we had. So even being that, being a Marine, Marine veteran, this story is also unique to even Marine Corps history. And for us Marines, we're very big on, honoring our traditions and our history. So for me, knowing our story, especially with the new, base opening up Camp Blas, on Guam, it just feels like it's a time, to try to repush because my great grandfather, from all the documents that I have right here, my great grandfather, he tried so hard. He ever since the 40s, he has all these documents, all these efforts from many Guam legislatures, and nothing. All of his efforts have been nothing. So I'm here to take the torch and try to, get that awarded, and then also honor him and the GCP uh, for all of it, for the rest moving forward and continued legacy. But so what had happened was when the Japanese first came, and invaded Guam, of course they occupied our Chamorro people and put them, in POW camps as slaves and all that stuff. But my great grandfather, he actually ran into the jungles of Aspen and found a hideout and built himself a hideout right down the street from his land in Aspen. And when the Japanese would go around and throughout the time from when the Japanese first invaded and from when the Americans first came in, my great grandfather would actually uh, pick the Japanese soldiers off one by one, and he would give them a warrior's burial because he knew, the honor it took for a soldier, let alone him fighting for his country, but that also he had to do what he had to do. So he actually would pick them off one by one and do that. But before when he heard the Japanese were coming, actually uh, he he had noticed from his foreman, which I could actually read here from the Guam legislature, which I'm going to read so I can make sure we go word for word. So it says, this is the, let me see, this is the 19th Guam legislature from 1988, second regular session. And it goes, Guam legislature relative to honoring and commending Mr. Francisco J. Cruz of Aston and extending the gratitude of the people of Guam for his courageous and heroic acts during World War II, and nominating him for inclusion into the Guma UNRWA and encouraging his awards for the Congressional Medal of Honor or Medal of Freedom. Be it resolved by the legislature of the Territory of Guam, whereas it has recently come to attention that the legislature of the U.S. Territory of Guam, that Mr. Francisco J. Cruz of Aston performed an extraordinary act of courage and heroism during the landing of American Liberation Forces on Guam on July 22, 1944. The significance, magnitude, and effect of which, until the present time, has never been revealed by Mr. Cruz and cannot therefore be fully appreciated by the people of Guam and the U.S. Armed Forces and the American people as a whole. Whereas Mr. Francisco J. Cruz, he worked for a rock processing company as a dynamiter at an Aston rock quarry before the Japanese occupation. And whereas Mr. Cruz was forewarned by his company foreman of an impending invasion of Guam by the Japanese Imperial Forces shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, December 7, 1941. And whereas upon being advised by his foreman to hide the company's stockpile of approximately 700 sticks of dynamite, Mr. Cruz did so to prevent the explosives from falling into enemy hands and kept their location secret for over 2.5 years. And whereas a sympathetic Taiwanese Chamorro, Mr. Alberto Tenorio, working on Guam as a Japanese interpreter, informed Mr. Cruz of the expected imminent landing of American Liberation Forces on Guam and the existence of the machine gun bunkers in the hills of Aston that would surely inflict heavy losses of American lives upon their landing. And whereas the day after the landing of American forces on Guam, the third day, U.S. Marine Division, which landing on Aston and began its advance up the hillside, encountered a heavily fortified enemy and experienced such heavy losses from Japanese firepower that their advance was halted for an indeterminate period of time. And whereas Mr. Francisco J. Cruz, who was nearby at the Aston property hideout, approximately 100 yards away from the scene celebrating the Japanese soldiers who believed they repulsed the Americans, he observed that a number of them, the enemy celebrates around 700 to 800, many of them were intoxicated, leaving only one sentry or gear guard to tend the 10 machine gun bunkers. And whereas Mr. Cruz, who had earlier witnessed the heavy casualties experienced by the 3rd Mar Div, seized the opportunity to deal the Japanese a smashing blow by using the stockpile of dynamite he had hidden before the Japanese occupation. And whereas Mr. Cruz overpowered and killed the lone Japanese sentry, he then disguised himself as a Japanese soldier by donning the soldier's uniform. And whereas Mr. Cruz then proceeded to plant the dynamite charges at each of the 10 enemy machine gun bunkers and at the underground cave headquarters adjacent to the celebration site, at a personal risk to himself. And whereas within a couple of hours after planting his explosive charges, the 3rd Marine Division returned its advance, causing the Japanese to cut their celebration short and return to their fighting positions in the cave and bunkers. And whereas after the Japanese returned to their positions, Mr. Cruz set off the explosive charges at each of the locations, effectively annihilating the enemy, its fortified positions, and thus saving hundreds of Chamorro and American lives from either death, injury, or which could have been inflicted on them by the size of the force, its superior position, and firepower. And whereas the mop-up operations of the American Liberation Forces, Mr. Cruz continued to assist in finding and eliminating resisting Japanese forces, especially as a member of the Guam Combat Patrol, which was formed in November 44th, which I have the service affidavit. It's actually July 1944. Whereas, although Mr. Cruz was decorated with the Bronze Star Medal for his service as a member of Guam Combat Patrol, from then the Secretary of the Navy, James Forrestal, Mr. Cruz has never decorated for this specific and isolated act of gallantry, which, although in great fear for his life, he acted unselfishly, above and beyond the call of duty, so that many lives would be saved from his heroic action. And whereas perhaps due to shock at unbelievable number of enemy he destroyed at once, as well as his Catholic belief in the sanctity of life, albeit enemy life, and his personal inner reluctance to accept sole responsibility for such a high number of human lives lost at his hands, Mr. Cruz kept the truth to his brief battle episode secret from general public, except for Admiral Chester W. Nimitz and a few close relatives and friends. And whereas, although Mr. Cruz was verbally promised a Medal of Honor by Admiral Nimitz for his heroic feat, it is unknown at this time such an award was never carried out. And whereas the people of Guam, now knowing with pride the unselfish contribution of Mr. Cruz during World War II, which played a significant part in reducing the number of American Chamorro lives lost during the liberation of Guam, now therefore be it resolved that the people of Guam extend their sincerest gratitude for Mr. Francisco J. Cruz for his devotion to duty, through his act of valor in order to destroying such a large number of enemy soldiers during World War II liberation of Guam, and to further honor and commend him for such an extraordinary act of gallantry for his island and his country, by nominating him for the inclusion of Guam's Goma UNRWA, and be it further resolved that the legislature requests the assistance of the governor of Guam and Guam's Washington delegate to follow up in attempting to have Mr. Cruz nominated for the Congressional Medal of Honor or the Medal of Freedom, whichever is appropriate after 43 years, and be it further resolved that the legislature contact the appropriate agencies of the federal government about the possibility of excavating the site of the bunkers and the caves to retrieve the remains of the Japanese war dead for a proper burial ceremony by the government of Japan as an act of goodwill, friendship, and cooperation between the two governments. And be it further resolved that the Speaker certify to and the Legislative Secretary attest the adoption hereof, and the copies of the same be thereafter transmitted to Mr. Francisco J. Cruz in an appropriate ceremony to be determined by the Speaker, to the President of the United States, to the President of the U.S. Senate, to the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, to the Secretary of Defense, to the Secretary of the Navy, to the Guam Veterans Organizations, to the Washington Delegate of Guam, and to the government of Guam. Duly and regularly adopted on the 16th day, January 1988, Pilar C. Lujan, Senator and Legislative Secretary, and Frank J. Gutierrez, Acting Speaker.
No, Sidzus mas I think mas maulik mas met good pogwi internet fanan. I think the internet is better now. And so thank you so much for sharing all of that background, and we've got a bunch of people that are tuning in now, and I can see some of the comments. And so por favor, if you have any questions or if you want to show support for Aaron, please do comment and ask any questions that you have. I went ahead and I put into the link on the live stream the website for the Chamorro American Foundation.
Yes,
and so I'm going to also put it up here right now, and I'm the Chamorro American Foundation.
Yes. As you
Go
can
ahead.
scroll down. Okay, yeah. So we're, as you can see, our mission, we are to serve. Okay, well, you can go to the picture. At the picture, this statue is actually the statue at the Adelup Governor's Complex. And anybody on Guam can go see it. It's right in the front. If you come in from the left side, it's right there in the corner before the parking lot. But he's the one pointing, surrounded by United States Marines. And I believe I think the other gentleman with his shirt off is actually another GCP member. I'm not too sure. But the Chamorro American Foundation, our mission is to serve, protect, and increase emergency preparedness for the Mariana Islands as a whole. One thing that we noticed, being on the mainland, is being Chamorro, and wanting to give back to your people. It's kind of hard to really kind of figure out where to go, especially dedicated to something that's so niche and needed, like emergency preparedness. And for us being on the mainland, we're based out of San Antonio, Texas. One thing that our goal is, is to establish basically that channel, that infrastructure to where we can provide and give back to our islands on an emergency preparedness matter. And yeah, if you want, you can go in there. If you click inspiration right in below, you can see some of the pictures. The first one is actually going to be my great grandfather with his statue right there with his Top Gun hat. And then the Guam legislation with his Top Gun hat. The Guam legislation, the one that I just read, are those 2 pages right below. And as you can tell, there's a little story, going in depth of what the Guam Combat Patrol is, the picture. That letter right here is actually the original 1945 letter of the original 16 members of the Guam Combat Patrol. So that's like an 80-year-old document that luckily my family has preserved, and I'm able to share, with everybody.
Oh, wow. This is no, this is amazing history. I mean, uh it's no, it's wonderful to hear, I think yeah, it's especially because we are getting to a point where soon, your great grandfather, of course, Esta Mata, he has already passed away. And so we're getting to the point now where, the war survivors that are around were children when the war
Yeah.
broke out, where some of the people who tell the war stories now were babies when the war broke out. And so they can't tell the same stories. They don't have the same experiences. And so, one of the things that I appreciate about you being here today, though, is that if Chamorros were a storytelling people, we're an oral culture. We have to tell these stories. We have to like pass them on. It's good to have a museum, it's good to have books, it's good to have all this stuff, but we also need to tell our people's stories. And so it's good that you are carrying on your great grandfather's story. That because if we don't do it, who else
Who
is
else? Who
for us?
else? Who else cares about our history other than us? And that's why our history is important. Our history isn't just Chamorro history; it's American history, and
Hmm.
that's one thing that I think a lot of Chamorros, especially the diaspora, need to, really. And even on back on island, it's like, hey, we've been part of America, love it or hate it, for such a long time, and a lot of people don't really even know that after Pearl Harbor, they think that Pearl Harbor was like the only thing that Americans went through, for the World War II. Not a lot of people know that there was inhabited population that was the U.S. territory that was POWs and slaves, and the guy was getting, massacred. Not a lot of people know that still to this day. So, it's one of those things where I feel like I have a sense of like that's like I'm being pushed. I have to do this. You know what I mean? Because like you said, who else is gonna do it if not us? So that's why I feel supremely honored to just be here and even be the face to even tell this story on behalf of my great grandfather. It's because knowing how hard he tried to get everything. It is a big deal. Because I wouldn't be here if he didn't do that. He probably if he never would have did his thing and never survived, I wouldn't be here because my grandma Ruth wouldn't be here, my dad wouldn't be here. So when you look at it like that, and he had to put himself in harm's way just for me to be here. When you think about it, so it's extremely honoring, and it's proud, full of pride.
Mm. No, no, Biba, Biba. Now let's talk about I want to give you a chance though, because we've been talking about the reinvasion, the liberation, you know, um, let's talk about the post-war. So
Mm,
talk about the Guam Combat Patrol.
yeah,
And so the Guam
I
Combat
actually.
Patrol, what's that?
I'm sorry. I said I actually have the if you want to give the breakdown of the Guam Combat Patrol, I can go through, show some documents, some of the things that I have, that really honor, some of the Guam Combat Patrol.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's here we go. Let's see here. There's a number of pictures. I had a good picture that I wanted to share. There's a there's a few good pictures. This is one that you shared.
Yes. See, this one, um, I'm not really too sure on where it is from, so I found it, and looking at it, it was with all of his, GCP stuff. So I mean, if you can recognize any of these, gentlemen or any of their family members if they watch, I'm not really too sure. But yeah, my great grandfather's in the front row, in the second from the right, and yeah, I believe that's one of their, pictures right before they went out on a patrol, because they went on lots of patrols.
Yeah. It's so the Guam Combat Patrol is interesting because it begins with people like your great grandfather. It begins kind of informally with people who are
Yeah.
just kind of scouts. So
Mhm.
that's why sometimes people get a little bit confused because at first you have you have these US soldiers, these US troops who are hitting the island. They're in the jungles. They don't they don't really know the area. They don't know much. And in truth, they need people to help them get around. And so once the Japanese start to lose their discipline, once they're retreating north, then young Chamorro men, such as your great grandfather, who have been starting to fight the Japanese in their own way, starting to do what they can to get back at the Japanese. They start to join up and to guide, to do what they can to help. And so sometimes it's informally at first, and then eventually some of them get detached where they're like moving alongside with these troops and fighting alongside with these troops. And then
Yeah.
eventually later, though, some of them get folded into what's called like the Guam Combat Patrol, which is like a a semi-military police unit. So it's like semi-military because a lot of them were running with the
Active
military.
duty. Yeah, on their
Yeah.
service affidavit, they actually were considered an active duty force.
Yes.
I have and when it says right here, their whole sole purpose was to search for the Japanese armed forces in the jungles and to capture them. And they were an actual military division on active military service. And yeah, so a lot of that's something that a lot of people don't really, really think about, when the type of, stuff that they had to see, when they went to, for us as Marines, like my wife and I, she's the East Coast Marine, I'm a West Coast Marine, and both of us never heard of anybody that's ever had a Marine Corps honorable discharge from anywhere other than, going to the depot, and let alone I'm looking at my great grandfather's honorable discharge from going to boot camp in the jungles of Essen. So it's like, like to me, I'm just like, wow, like it's very interesting, very, honoring, so when you look at it, it's like they weren't just scouts, like they were, to the Marines, they were basically Marines, and that's how the government saw them. But it was kind of sad, that it did take so long for them to get recognized as
Mhm.
American veterans, because when we look at it, like I have a letter right here from the Ninth Guam Legislature, and this is basically the whole legislature of us as a island, the people of Guam, trying to plead to the federal government of giving us our GCP American veteran status of, participating in the war like a normal soldier or Marine did. So if you want, I could read it. It's not that long, but it is very interesting. To
What? Go ahead
and
and share.
unique.
Go ahead and share it. Did you send it to me? Can I put it? Is that one of the ones
I
you?
don't. I don't think I think I might have
Okay.
sent it to you. I'm not too sure if I did send it to you.
Go ahead
But
and go
yeah, I
ahead and
mean,
read. Go ahead and read it
okay,
because I think it's. But no, you're right that you're right that the it was good that eventually these men were recognized, but it did because of their position. It did take a while to get you know. I think, but I think what's important before you share that though is that a lot of these men, like your great grandfather and others, they didn't do it necessarily for any compensation, for any recognition. They did it to protect the island, to protect
that's
their
right.
family
Hmm.
because they were the Japanese had the island for 32 months. Terrible things happened, and this was a chance to keep everybody safe again. And so I think, looking back, I think a lot of them appreciated what recognition they got. Some of them may have been frustrated or hurt to
Yeah,
not
of course.
get what was promised to them, but in the moment, they didn't do it for that. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the things to remember is that they didn't do it for those things. It was at that time because, for example, let me just share real fast. This is one of the more famous images of a larger collection of the Guam Combat Patrol. And so, these this was a time when this was like in the 1944, 45, 46, 47, and then eventually in 48, the Combat Patrol was disbanded. And people were still getting killed in 46 and in 47 by
Yeah.
Japanese stragglers. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't happening all the time, but
Hmm.
because the Japanese were still hiding, they were trying to avoid as much as possible, but they were still like if, stragglers were out and they would steal things from farms. And if you were a Chamorro farmer and you encountered the stragglers as they were trying to get food to survive, then they might stab you, you know?
Yeah.
There
Wow.
were US
Yeah.
military that were killed by stragglers during this time. So the combat patrol were keeping the island safe for their families, for their friends, their neighbors. They were also keeping the island safe for the U.S. military that was on island too. Um, and so, but yes. So, anyways, go ahead and share that now. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So right here, the Ninth Guam Legislature, the 1968 Second Regular Session, Resolution number 413. This says, relative to again memorializing the Department of Defense to advise the legislature as to what can be done to give the Guam Combat Patrol the same recognition for purpose of veterans benefits as are given to other veterans of the Second World War. Uh, be it resolved by the legislature of the Territory of Guam, whereas shortly after the reinvasion of Guam in July 1944, the American Military Command organized among the local male residents unit, officially designated the Guam Combat Patrol, which was given the task of tracking down in the jungles of Guam numerous armed Japanese stragglers and holdouts, a responsibility of no small magnitude in view of the extremely rugged nature of Guam boondocks and the fanaticism of the Japanese stragglers. And whereas over a period of many months, and after a series of bloody clashes and arduous patrols, in the course of which several members of the patrol lost their lives and a large number were wounded in a series of sanguinary engagements, the task was completed, and all of the armed enemy stragglers were either killed or captured. The Guam Combat Patrol, thus completing the liberation of Guam, commenced by the regular armed forces of the United States. And whereas the local military officers of the American Armed Forces treated the Guam Combat Patrol as a regular military organization, issuing to it American uniforms and equipment, and officially recognizing the bravery and valor of many of its members, awarding both the Silver and the Bronze Star to some of its members, and giving Purple Heart to all those wounded in action. And whereas, and in spite of the recognition by the military officers directly concerned, the bureaucrats in the Department of Defense have never acknowledged the existence of the Guam Combat Patrol as a regular unit of the American Armed Forces, and thus its veterans and and the survivors of those who died in combat have never received any of the benefits of federal legislation given to all other veterans of the Second World War. And whereas the legislature of Guam has adopted resolution after the resolution on this subject, again and again requesting assistance in its efforts to obtain recognition of the veteran status of the Guam combat members, but has little to report for its efforts. These men no closer to acknowledgement as American veterans as they were the day they got their Bronze Star or Purple Hearts, and thus the legislature still does not. Guam Combat Patrol veterans, and should be noted that the legislature has seen to it that such veterans are given full recognition by the territorial government of their status as veterans of armed forces, all local veteran benefits having extended to those combat patrol veterans. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ninth Guam Legislature does hereby, on behalf of the people of Guam, again respectfully request and petition the appropriate officials of the Department of Defense to advise legislature on what action needs to be taken to grant the veterans of the Guam Combat Patrol official recognition as American veterans of the armed forces with full, that's a little blocked out, full commitment benefits and privileges, and be it further. Resolved that the Speaker certify to and Legislative Secretary attest that adoption hereof, and that copies of the same be therefore transmitted to the Honorable Clifford Clark, Secretary of Defense, to General Earl Wheeler, Chief of Staff, United States Army, to Guam's Washington's representative, to the Administrator, Veterans Administration, Washington, D.C., and to the Governor of Guam.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, it's like so. I mean, this, when you read it, it's. I mean, I understand, that they weren't for the benefits, but it's, hearing, reading that and hearing, that even the own troops recognize them as an active force, yet, the government, I mean, of course, you got to apply for it, but, it is what it is. As long as, recognition on that form, was, and they were able to, I'm so happy about that.
No, Biba. And so I want to ask you about some of the things that you shared with me. For example, you shared with me this clipping here of your great grandfather and your great grandmother,
Yeah,
and your grandfather here
that's
is
right.
sharing a Japanese World War II rifle with the head of the Guam National Guard. That's Adjutant General Frank Torres, I believe. And so,
Yeah,
can you tell us about this? These are all
yeah.
from the collection of your tata, of your great grandfather, right?
Yes, these are all from the collection of my my great grandfather. Yes, my thought that. Yes, for sure. So that rifle was actually my grandfather. He actually captured that rifle from the Japanese, owner of that rifle during a patrol, and he had it for so long, ever since, and he felt like he wanted to, give it back to the people and show it, and so that he donated that to the Guam National Guard, which I have his certificate right here from Brigadier General Frank C. Torres, and that rifle was actually ended up being donated. It is currently can be seen by everybody on Guam and anybody who visits Guam at the Guam Museum, and it should be that Japanese rifle that's on display that's donated by the National Guard. So, if you want to see a piece of history that is already on display at Guam Museum, you can go and see, my great grandfather's rifle that he captured, while he was doing his combat duties.
No, Sidus Masi. And so let me
But if you want to go to that picture right there, that's that one right there with the flag.
oh
And
yes.
I think, yeah, that flag. I have a letter right here. I believe that's from a Colonel Miller. As you can see, it says July 21st, 1944, the landing beach at Aspen Beach. And it says, to my good friend, Frank Cruz, with warm regards and the highest respect, you'll always be Liberation Day to me. Colonel Miller, he was actually the commander of all of the Marine barracks on Guam. And
Mhm.
I actually have a story. That's why, I wanted to bring it up. I actually have a letter right here from the former mayor of Aston, Frank A. Akfale, and it actually has Colonel Miller in it. And it describes how he talks about, my great grandfather. So, is it okay if I share this letter real quick about it? Cool, cool. So, it says, "Gentlemen, as former mayor of the municipality of Aston Mena, I'm writing this letter in full support for Mr. Francisco J. Cruz upcoming award, which is recommended by the former Senator Jerry Rivera, 19th Guam Legislature. I had known Mr. Cruz all my life. Being born in Aston, I grew up from a young man to this present day and still look up to Tom Kiko as a hero. I did not see the war because I wasn't born then, but during my childhood, I remember young people my age be, love to listen to stories about the war told by our parents. Often I would ask them to repeat their stories over and over again. I would visit Tonkico just to hear his stories as he was descriptive. He would be very descriptive of the places and events as if he was really happening. I also recall my term as mayor of Assen when Colonel Miller, commanding officer of the Marine Barracks Guam, sister city for my village, told me that he was among the Marines that came to Guam July 21st, 1944, to liberate the islands after the landing on the beach of Assen. As one of the survivors, he was taken back to their group when Colonel Miller heard of Mr. Cruz's bravery action. Mr. Cruz destroyed a large number of Japanese that would have wiped out the whole Marines in which Colonel Miller was part of. It was then to the day that the years that Colonel Miller became the best friends, Mr. Cruz, they became best friends and often talked proudly of him. Mr. Francisco J. Cruz is well respected in the community of Aston for his heroism and leadership. He was also an expert marksman and an outstanding policeman, where he retired as a sergeant after GCP during his time of service. I'm proud to talk about this man and would always describe him as the true legend of his time. I commend the former Senator Jerry Rivera and the members of the 19th Guam Legislature for their effort in recommending this true American for his prestigious award. I strongly feel that Mr. Francisco J. Cruz really deserves this high award. Sincerely, Frank A. Akfale, former mayor of Aston.
Oh, Sidus Masi. No, Sidus Masi for sharing it. These are, I mean, especially as a curator, for the Guam Museum, it's always amazing to when people share the files of their family. So for you to just have us look through all of the things that your great grandfather collected in his life to tell his story is amazing. He lived an amazing life, did amazing things, but then it's just amazing how people hold on to these things too, and then how then they pass them on. And so
Yeah, see, with that, a lot of people, with that, I mean, it's very uh, humbling, of course, but I mean, with me, it's like, this is, of course, he's my great grandfather, and I'm sure, a lot of people might think, he's your great grandfather. You probably never even met him or know him or something like that. But, I actually lived with my great grandfather for my first 10 years of my life, in his last 10 years of his life. And was actually in the room with him when he passed. He passed away at my house, my dad's house. And the room I was in the room with him is just me, him, and his wife. My great grandma. And I was so close to him. I remember him taking me into the jungles and caves of Aspen, and it's watching him climb up the coconut trees when he was so old. He was for his age. I was like, wow. Like thinking about it now, I was like, wow, he was doing that. And so it's very very humbling. Knowing that even with all of that, he's still even with his walker, he would stop and just put his arm up and start flexing and say, I'm Frank Flintstone, because I used to watch Fred Flintstones growing up, and he'd be like, I'm Frank Flintstone, I'm hard, like, because like it's like his sense of humor, it just made lighthearted of the stuff, that I learned, and his maybe the little battles that he was dealing with internally, because all the things he did see, growing up as a young Chamorro man.
oh no, thank you for sharing. And I wanted to give you a chance now. If we have a few questions, but I want to give you a chance actually now to share some of those stories too, because we've been looking at the files that you've been sharing, the pictures. Were there any stories that you wanted to share from your grandfather's experiences that he told you? Like, he was in the Guam Combat Patrol. Did he ever tell you a story, or did your family ever share any stories about his experiences during the war?
Uh,
Did anything happen to
uh,
him, made him feel like he needed to fight? Because a lot of Chamorros suffered and struggled. Not everyone felt like they could fight back directly. Are there any stories in particular that you want to share from your great grandfather's experiences?
well, there's really, in a way, one story right now that really comes up, and that's earlier when I was talking about before, before the Medal of Honor heroics of the Marines landing, when I was telling about my great grandfather, picking off the Japanese one by one, in the jungle, throughout the night, when he saw, availability, he would actually bury some of them if if it was close enough. He would actually bury some of those Japanese soldiers on my great great grandfather's ranch in Chalapago. And currently, right now to this day, if unless you know somebody who ended up with the land because the land was uh, unfortunately out of our possession and some weird twist, but somebody probably my dad and probably my Nino, my uncle, my dad's brothers, they probably know exactly where they were buried because my grandfather would take us to my older brother, my brother and I, and my uncles, and we would all go to that ranch, my great great grandfather's ranch in Chalapago, and tend the yard or do maintenance, and uh it's there's still Japanese that if there's archaeologists or people that are big and doing that stuff, there's still the Nimitz Hill that needs to be exhumed or gone through, and as well as possibly some of that land in Tamapago, just to give them a proper burial or something.
Mm. Well, thank you. No, Jesus Masi.
But I do have the Bronze Star Award. Actually, I didn't share his Bronze Star Award that he got from the Guam Combat Patrol. If you want me to read that real quick.
Oh, yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
So this was the Bronze Star that he was awarded from his time at Guam Combat Patrol. It says from the Secretary of the Navy, Washington, the President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Bronze Star Medal to Corporal Francisco J. Cruz, Guam Police Department, for the service as set forth in the following citation: for meritorious achievement as a member of the Guam Police Department in Guam, Mariana Islands, from November of 1944 until the cessation of hostilities, while serving with the local security patrol force in its mission of eliminating remaining enemy forces on the island. Corporal Cruz fulfilled his dangerous assignment faithfully and courageously. On one occasion, after discovering fresh Japanese tracks leading to a cave, he hurled a grenade into the opening and boldly advanced into the cave with his fire group, killing 2 of the hostile occupants. As a member of the Guam Combat Patrol, which destroyed 117 Japanese, captured 5, and probably killed an additional 20, he rendered outstanding service to his government and to his people, and was instrumental in achieving a greater measure of security for our forces on this vital base. His heroic actions throughout reflect the highest credit upon Corporal Cruz and the friendly natives of Guam. From the President, and then signed by James Forrestal, Secretary of the Navy.
Hey, Jesus Masi. Jesus Masi. And so, can you tell us about sort of you know, your hopes for the future then in terms of the campaign, the medal campaign, the hopes that your family has?
Well, right now, I'm working with, I'm in contact with Congressman Moreland's office. I'm seeking contact, due to the new changes of all the leaders, the senators, the legislature, even the presidential administration, because, the Medal of Honor needs to be signed by the president. everything is all the new, legislatures and congressmen and all the politicians are just now coming into office. So besides Congressman Moylan, who's actually, been there as, representative, I am in talks with, his team on trying to, get a or get a packet out to, get the Medal of Honor. But honestly, the only thing that I'm really trying to do in the long term is just get him the recognition that he was promised, and then honor his and the GCP's legacy, for forever through the nonprofit, which spreads awareness and gives back to our island, during our time of need, due to it being an emergency preparedness nonprofit. So basically, just get him the recognition that was promised, and then tell his story, and work with as many people as I can, throughout Guam, and like with you, and just tell his story, because his story is truly a one of a kind, unique story, with our people, in our history of occupation, and just in general.
No, Sidus Masi. Sidus Masi, I appreciate what you are doing in terms of, not just bringing attention for for your ancestor, your tata, your great grandfather, but also just the way that this will bring more attention to the Guam Combat Patrol and others like him. Because I think for me, as somebody who's, collected, uh, who has sat down with interviewed hundreds of Chamorro war survivors, one of my frustrations is the way that we just kind of assume that everyone has like this generic experience, and we just kind of put it all
Yeah.
into template, cut and paste and stuff, and we lose the particular experiences of people. We lose so much as time moves on. Some of that is natural, some of that is just normal. But for me, it's like, no. Part of what happens though is that we lose, the even even for me, because I feel like there's so many ways that people can be strong, that ways that people can be heroes. Um, they can show courage, absolutely. But
Yeah.
one of the things though is that you then when our people though showed a different type of strength and courage, you have to be ready to also recognize that too. And so your great grandfather's story, those of the Guam Combat Patrol, the men of Atati, the men of Malesso who killed the
Yeah.
Japanese there, those,
Polydueños,
oh yes, those types of
Polydueños.
Hunga and Denancy how those types of stories, we gotta be ready we gotta be ready to tell those stories too, and not lump all these types of stories together and just say, oh yeah, everyone was strong, everyone was good. It's like, yeah, everyone was strong, sure. But man, some
Yeah.
people some people were ready to risk everything, and
Everything.
you gotta that's a different type of story. And so and so one thing that I appreciate now is that for a long time Chamorros didn't know how to talk about that story, because when we would think about Liberation Day, it was always honoring the United States, and it was hard to honor our own heroes because it was about
Yeah,
honoring.
Our own Chamorro liberators,
It was
right
hard.
there.
It was hard for people to recognize that. And so that's one reason why for a while even the scouts, the combat patrol guys, our own liberators, Gifinotmo, they didn't get as much recognition locally as they should have. But then
Yeah.
eventually it took about a generation, and then they started to get like the mayors, the legislature, the governors on island were like, hey, we got to honor these guys. They're starting to pass away. They did a lot. And so, but now they've all passed away. So now it's our job to remember their stories and find different ways to keep their stories alive. And so it is with this in mind, though, that I want to give you a chance, because we're just about out of time. So I want to give you a chance now to share whatever you'd like, your final thoughts. If you wanted to remind people about your nonprofit, for example, you want to talk about, I know we had some family members that were watching. Wait, Nanga, people said that that your great grandfather he loved bowling, Zanya Bamol.
Yeah.
And then somebody was laughing about his Top Gun hat.
Yeah, yeah, Top Gun, that's him for real. That is him to the T.
And so a lot of people, I think you had and then a former student of mine who might be, I think, as a relative of yours, Sife Salas. She was saying that Uncle Frank was amazing. She's so proud to hear his heroic story. And she says that her mom was the only person who told his story, and about how many more people would not be alive today if not for him. And so she thanks you for telling
Okay.
his story.
So just my shit. Just my shit.
And so anything you want to share now as we conclude this episode? Put for what?
I just want to say thank you, for giving me this opportunity to tell, my family story. And this is just my shit. And I just want to, invite everybody to follow us, Tomorrow American Foundation on, Instagram or X or Facebook, whatever you use, to follow us, on our journey on navigating this process of getting a Medal of Honor, especially for, unincorporated American territory from 80 years ago. So, um, just be on the lookout and, if we can all, say, a few prayers and, you know, just thank you guys for lending me your ears and even being here. It's a big honor and I'm truly humbled. Just mostly.
Si Diyos masi. Si Diyos masi, Aaron, pwede finatot mo. Siyempre banidoso na ibisagwalo mo nuhogo. I'm sure that your great-grandfather is very proud of what you're doing to keep his story alive, to keep telling these stories, to keep our people strong. Hunggan, man, hunggan. And so, thank you all. Si dus masipot hamzo todos. Padinega esti tumaigwini na episode para Fanachu. Esti fanakpo, adios. Esta ki
Adios.
manali.
That's up.